Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Peace on the Sabbath. Just concluded the Sabbath Day Teaching. Go back and check that one out. It's the live before this one. But in reading, something led me to First Maccabees. Haven't really done too much diving into them, but within the first few, verses, I was like, here we go. People often are offended when I say religion is man-made and tell people that, hey, Christianity and all these other religions out here aren't the truth. But First Maccabees gives us some evidence that these jokers was creating man-made religions, vain religions, trying to get people to not keep the Sabbath. But don't take my word for it. So First Maccabees, let's start at verse 11. And I want you to realize that most people that call themselves truthers don't have these books in their Bible, because around 1884, 1885, the 1611 KJV that had these books was revised down to 66 books. And it's evident why they don't want you to have them, because they don't want you to know the truth. As long as you don't have the truth, it's easier to be deceived, and there will be a lot of gaps that they can fill in with their narrative instead of, according to right things via the word. So starting at verse 11, those days went there out of Yashriel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go cut a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. Think about that. Think about the Roman Catholic Church, and by way of them changing a lot of this stuff. It says, let us go cut a covenant with the heathen. Let's make a deal with the heathen that they are round about us, for since we departed from them and have had much sorrow. So this device pleased them well, this device. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license. The king gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. A king appointing people to follow the heathen. Think about what's his name? The Pope. What's the Pope that doggone signed off on the Constantine? Think about him signing and giving license for people to keep a new day. Verse 14, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen. Building all these places for heathen worship. 15, and made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen that were sold to do mischief. Think about that. They forsake the holy covenant. This was their agenda. And Abba Yah didn't uncircumcise them. It says, and made themselves uncircumcised. Verse 16. Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, here's the thing. People don't understand when they were called, Christians at Antioch, these was people launching an insult to followers of Messiah. Messiah wasn't calling himself a Christian, but Maccabees is going to expose a lot. Verse 16, now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Misraim, that he might have dominion of 2 realms. Wherefore he entered into Misraim with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen and a great navy. It was something to see. It was a show to see. And made war against Ptolemon, king of Misraim, but Ptolemon was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Misraim and took the spoils thereof. They came over and took over Misraim and took all the spoils. And after Antiochus had smitten Misraim, he returned again into the 143rd year, and went up against Yashriel and Jerusalem. This is, we talking about some real warfare. And entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar and the menorah of light and all the vessels thereof. And think about all this symbolism that they brought in and told you it was the truth. Verse 22, and the table of showbread and the pouring of vessels and the vials and the censers of gold and the vial and the crown and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. So he was giving that thing a religious makeover. He took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also he took hidden treasures, which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre, and he spoke very proudly, high-minded, just like these religious folks do. Therefore, there was a great mourning in Yashriel in every place where they were, so that the princes and elders mourned, the virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women was changed. Think about this. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, or word means great grief and sorrow, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. The land was also moved for the inhabitation thereof, and all in the house of Yaakov was covered with confusion. That's what we have. People don't know which flavor is the truth. All this is man-made. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Yahud, who came into Jerusalem with great multitude, and spoke peaceable words unto them. It says Messiah didn't come to bring peace. He came to bring a sword. But what is the deception? And spoke peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. Everything he was speaking, it was peace. Hey, let's be at peace. Kumbaya. All was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it every sore and destroyed many people of Yashriel. I told you there was many, commandment keepers that was killed at the conversion of Christianity. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down houses and walls thereof on every side. But the women and children they took captive and possessed the cattle. They took all the booty. Then built they the city of David with great and strong wall and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. Think about these folks telling folks that Christianity is the way, this man-made thing, and you can't find none of that stuff that they be talking about in the whole of Scripture. They stored it also with armor and victuals, and they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem. They laid them up there, and so they became a sore snare. They became a trap, for it was a place to lie in and wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Yashriel, religion. So much so that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made a habitation of strangers and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. Think about that. These folks trying to make Christianity a worldwide religion, and everyone should leave his laws, so that the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king, the commandments of men, man-made commandments. Ye also of Yashriel consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. Think about that. Sunday is profaning the Sabbath. And it tells us in Maccabee, this is why they don't want you reading this stuff, because the truth is in what they've been trying to take out and what they've taken out. But it was in the original 1611. For the king, this verse 44, for the king had sent a Sephraim by messenger unto Jerusalem and the cities of Yahud, that they should follow the strange laws of the land. Mm, 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 mm. Let's keep going. 45, and forbid ascending smoke offerings and sacrifice and drink of fearings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbath and feast days. Think about that. Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, Halloween. But we got Feast of Trumpets coming up. We got Feast of Tabernacles, Feast of Unleavened Bread, Passover. But they don't teach you that in religion. They teach you to profane the Sabbath and the feast days and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and Asherah poles and chapels of idols. Think about this. When you look in the Catholic Church, all these idols of dead saints that these folks is praying unto, and sacrifice swine's flesh. Why you think the religious people tell you you can eat the swine? They sacrificing swine flesh and unclean beast. Oh yeah, we're going to have to revisit this. That they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanliness and profanation, to the end they might forget the Torah and change all the ordinance. That's replacement theology right there. The concept that the church has replaced Yashriel. And whosoever would not do according to the commandments of the king, he said he should die. You don't know how many Sabbath day keepers said we are not converting to Christianity and lost their life. The word tells you so. In the self same manner wrote he to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers over all the people. The king ordained these people. The Most High Yah didn't ordain these people, commanding the cities of Yahoo to sacrifice city by city. When these religious folks is calling you down to the altar, you don't even realize you're getting sacrificed and not unto Abba Yah. Then many of the people were gathered unto him, to wit, everyone forsake the Torah, and they commitment, and so they committed evils to the land, and drove Yashriel into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for help. Why you think these folks got terms out here, anti-Semitic? Anytime you say they not the people and you realize that they are the two nines, they call you anti-Semitic when they are not the people. Now, the 15th day of the month of Kalev in 144 and 55th year, they set up the abomination and desolation upon the altar and built idol altars throughout the cities of Yahud on every side, and burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. And they went, and when they had rent in pieces of Sephrim of the Torah, which they found, they burnt them with fire. That's why people don't want. They tell you don't read the Old Testament. That's for them. We're New Testament, but they don't even know who the New Testament is for. If any committed to the Torah, the king's commandment was that they should be put him to death. Thus they did by their authority unto Yashriel every month. They was killing Yashriel, Yah's people, month by month. 2 as many were found in cities. Now the 25th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of Elohim. Now the 25th day of the month. Think about that. The 25th day. This is the history of Christmas right here. Now the 25th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of Elohim. This is the history of wicked Christmas right here. 60, at which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised, and they hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them. How about many in Yashriel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat anything unclean thing? Wherefore, the rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, that they might not be profaned the holy covenant. So then they died. And there was a very great wrath upon Yashriel. This right here is the history of religion right here, but this is the same stuff, the apocryphers that they took out, and in line with what I was teaching today. It's crazy where the spirit will lead you if you listen to it. And I'm about to sit here and really get into this thing because it's so much nuggets in here that people is not getting tomorrow, and they're thinking they're getting, the truth, when it tells you that, man, the king, not the Messiah, but this man, this king over Antiochus, gave license for people to go out and push all this religion and for people to profane the Sabbath. Man, this is truly wicked. But the answers is here. The answers is here the whole time. And real truthers seek the truth, seek the rest of the story, because there's so many gaps in there that 66 books you will never have understanding, because the answers of what actually happened in the Maccabean period will reveal to you the history of all this man-made idolatry that people don't even know they in, but they say they love him. Just wanted to share that with you. Go back and read First Maccabees and Second Maccabees all the way through Fourth Maccabees yourself, and you'd be surprised what you can find out. Because I'm about to get heavy off into this thing. Closer to God Ministries, kicking it gun barrel straight.